Welcome to Cyber Inspiration Podcast. My name is Evgeniy. I have been around cybersecurity for the last 20 years and I have a lot of experience working with a variety of cybersecurity vendors. My main work is vendor consulting and cybersecurity advisory for companies. As part of my passion in technology and cyber, I've been intrigued to learn how a company starts. I started the podcast to understand the thinking process and what motivated people to start their own company. This podcast is affiliated with Security Architecture Podcast.
I have a pleasure today to talk to Sharon about his company and his inspiration. Please tell me about yourself and the company.
Thanks, Evgeny, for your time, and thanks for having me. So I am the CEO and co-founder of Tonic Security, and we are an exposure management company. We're helping security teams better prioritize and remediate the different exposures through a unique context-driven approach, which means that we are turning all those millions of findings that they need to deal with and slashing away sometimes up to 99% of these findings and making them laser focused on those findings that are actually risky in their environment. And once we've narrowed the focus on these findings, then making sure that they get them fixed as fast as possible.
Usually my second question is about the inspiration for the company, but in this case, I want to understand the inspiration for the name. The name is amazing, but please tell me how it came to.
Yeah, so the main reason is that it's a cool name, and I think all of us are sick with the companies that start with C and Y and other variations. So it's a cool name. It enables a lot of cool swag. But seriously, if you want to find some meaning, there are two sources of inspiration. One is from science, from medicine. Tonic is a liquid medicine that we used to drink in the past. Now it's mainly in cocktails, but it was consumed in order to invigorate, inoculate, stimulate the immune system, and that is what we're doing to businesses in the cybersecurity space. And a lesser known field is music or musicology. So the tonic is the leading note of the tune, of the melody, and it kind of dictates the scale going forward. And part of our vision is to be a leader in the exposure management space to lead the pack.
Love the name, very, very unique. So let's dive in back to the cyber inspiration, because the podcast is about cyber inspiration. So what happened in your life? Because the company is relatively new, about 18 months, correct? Like that triggered you to start the company.
Yeah. So me and also my co-founders, we were cybersecurity practitioners, operators for many years, first in the governmental sector, dealing with nation-state attackers, and then later in the private sector, doing mainly incident response. So as a CISO in my past and as an incident responder, I was increasingly frustrated that when we did the post-mortem forensic analysis of incidents, in almost all of the cases, the root cause was a vulnerability that was picked up by the scanning tools of the organization, but was nevertheless exploited by the threat actors before the defenders got to address them. So it wasn't because of lack of visibility. It wasn't because they didn't have their sensors out there. They had that great visibility, but it was technical, it was siloed. They were able to see many trees, but not the forest. And this is how most of the threat actors got in when we did the forensic investigation. And it was because the security teams did not understand the significance, the pertinence of that vulnerability, or if it was another kind of weakness, in the context of their organization. They didn't understand that it pertains, for example, to a critical asset, an asset that is externally exposed, that is less well protected by security controls, and could be cascaded with others along an attack path. And because most security teams today, they base their prioritization on generic security scores, those that are not necessarily relevant in the context of their organization. This is also supported by a lot of surveys and researches. Still today, in 2025, the number one or two main cause of breaches is vulnerability exploitation.
This is an idea, and I agree with the idea as a correct idea. Next step, what did you do to take the idea from being an idea to reality? Did you call CISOs? Did you went to raise money? Describe the steps.
Yeah. So first of all, we felt that pain in the flesh. So we're scratching our own itch. I used to be a CISO, so it's not something that was foreign to me. Secondly, during the 5 years before I started Tonic, I worked in a cybersecurity consulting firm together with my partner, our chief product officer. And we had a very unique vantage point there to be right at the center of the cybersecurity playground between the defenders of Fortune 500 companies on the one hand, and the most sophisticated nation state and ransomware attackers. So it really enabled us to see that gap between the existing technology, the emerging threats, and the needs of CISOs. And now this problem of a faulty prioritization and stalling remediation is not a new one. It's an old problem, but it's constantly exacerbating because there is more connected devices, because the attack surface is expanding, because the threat actors are operating with increased velocity and sophistication. And the defenders, on the other hand, their lives are harder because they have to deal with more findings. They have more tools, so they need to pivot between many tools. They're always outnumbered, understaffed, and without enough budget, because in many cases they're considered a cost center. So this inherent asymmetry between the attackers and the defenders in our context of vulnerability or exposure management has been getting worse for the defenders. At the same time, finally, it was possible to solve this problem. With the advent of Gen AI, we are for the first time able to contextualize the assets and making sure that prioritization is very relevant to the threat landscape, the technological environment of the specific organization. So you have an old and exacerbating problem, and a symmetry that is expanding, and finally a technological breakthrough that enables us to solve it. And this is when we had that aha moment. We said, all right, we got to run with this.
Great. So what is the next step? Did you went to raise money, or you still went to validate the idea with people?
Yeah, so we did some additional validation. I work closely with many Fortune 500 CISOs across the world, so it was natural to pick their brain. We got overwhelming responses. Some were skeptical, so they said, "Yeah, I definitely feel the pain, but can you really solve it? Can you really contextualize my asset? Can you tell me if it's the asset is a critical one, which business process it supports, who's the owner of it, how easy is it for the threat actor to reach the asset and exploit it?" So we were met at the outset when we started this journey with some skepticism, both from CISOs and VCs. But I have to say, and this is kind of it reflects the pace of technological advancements. After about 2 months into that process, some of the responses were totally different. They said, "Yeah, we totally get it. Can you run fast enough? Because we're hearing others that are going also in that direction." So the response was really overwhelming, and yeah, we raised our seed round about a year and a half ago, and since then it's been a very, very fast and exciting ride.
Let's dive in a bit deeper on this journey. You had an idea, you raised money, you started to create a product. How different is the product right now versus your idea 18 months ago?
It's an interesting question because it's not a linear process. It's a roller coaster in a way, both emotionally and product-wise. But we have stayed quite loyal to our original vision. So we had a grand vision of providing and building an end-to-end exposure management platform. From the discovery of the assets and the vulnerability through the contextualization of it, and then making sure that the context helps us better scope what is worthy of protection, then prioritize the different findings, validate them, and then get them fixed. But when we talked to the VCs at the beginning, they said, look, this is a very grand vision. You got to pick a very small problem and be the best at it. And so when we started out, we took that grand vision and gradually made it smaller and smaller. And as we started working and building the product and getting more customers on board, we got back to that grander vision because we were getting these requests from our customers. And so we were addressing a real need there. So the way has been a bit curvy, but the grand vision stayed the same.
Was there an event with a customer, and you don't have to mention name, of course, that help you understand you're on the right path?
That we're on the right path, yes. So there were several of these aha moments, and I'll give you a couple of examples. One example is when we were having initial conversations with one of our design partners, and we told them the vision, how we're going to go about doing it, how we're leveraging AI to contextualize and accelerate remediation. And the CISO, or rather the deputy CISO there, who's responsible for exposure management, said to us, where were you all this time? We've been trying to build this internally for the last year and a half. And it's been very, very hard for us. It's hard for us to develop it, to maintain it. This is a Fortune 500 company, by the way, a very large security team. So they have the resources to build some platform in-house. But it was hard for them because they're not a tech company. And the click there was immediate. We didn't have really to explain to them what we want to do, how we want to do. They immediately understood. It was a click from the outset, and they're one of our strategic design partners. Another example, this is a financial services company. We had an argument with them in a way because we connected to their systems, their IT, their security tools, their collaboration tools. We started contextualizing the assets, and we raised several high impact, high risk findings that they weren't aware of. And so the first reaction was surprise, was disbelief. So there was a bit of an argument. But after that, we convinced them that this is the case. And that really helped us earn a lot of trust and credibility there because we told them what they didn't know, they didn't know.
Let's take it on a different level right now. In the end of the day, the ideas are amazing, but someone needs to build it. So you need to have people who are going to build and create the idea. Talk to me about hiring process and how do you decide which people to hire?
So we are lucky in one way, but also challenged in another respect. So we're lucky that we're building in an environment of very advanced, fast-paced technological development. We're located in Tel Aviv, Israel. There are a lot of bright minds here. Myself and my co-founders, we served in the past in the elite intelligence units in the military. And so we have people that we know that still serve there. So a lot of the talent comes from that. It's a lot about networking. And we are able to pool really the brightest talent. We even have two people, Evgeniy, that work in Tonic that are 18 years old.
Oh,
So they're before their
impressive.
military service. They both of them already have a BSc in computer engineering. So they're geniuses and they're working here. And so we have quite a heterogeneous group here. There is a challenge though, because there are a lot of startup companies in the startup nation. A lot of cybersecurity companies obviously emanate from Israel. A lot of AI companies that have been founded in the last couple of years. And we are an AI native company, an AI company just as much as we're a cyber company. So there is a lot of competition around talent. It's not easy.
When you hiring these genius people, besides their technical skills, what about team building? What about soft skills, communication skills? What are you looking there?
So when I hire people, when I interview them, I look at three different dimensions. The first one is it's skills, it's experience. Is this a person that has the knowledge to do the job, whether it's experience in previous companies or academic knowledge. Secondly, I look at aptitude, at talent, mainly at the ability to learn things very quickly and to be sharp and bright about it. And the last thing is about culture, values. Will they fit in? Will they contribute to the company? Will there be a positive influence? And when I was a junior manager, the ranking between these three factors were very clear to me. I always optimized for skills, for knowledge, what's written on the CV. Then also looking at the aptitude, and lastly, if the culture fit is good. Today I look at it almost diametrically opposite. I look if there is a good culture fit, a value fit. If this is a person that can positively contribute to the company. I look at the learning ability of the person. And of course, does he have the knowledge and the experience? But the proportions are different. That's what I learned with my experience.
Let's switch. Let's go talk about marketing and product. In the end of the day, if you cannot market yourself, nobody will know you exist. So there's always like a chicken and egg problem. You go to a customer tell you, "Ooh, I wish you had this feature." Oh, do you have this feature? And as a startup, we're always building on a fly. So what is your approach? Do you tell the customer, no, Mr. Customer, I don't have this feature, but I'll build it in the next 6 months, 3 months, 2 months? Or you tell them, oh, yeah, we have the feature. We're going to quickly go build it. Like, how do you approach this problem?
Yeah, so look, I try to remain candid and honest and professional, and we never sell something that we're not going to have or we don't have. But there are some things that we are working on that are on our roadmap. And if that meets the customer need, then we will be answering in a positive manner, because at our stage, we're still a young startup. The sales or the R&D of the company is to a large degree sales driven. And it's something that the R&D teams not always like to hear or don't. Sometimes I need to remind them. We need to ensure that we are building something that addresses a real need in the field and can be converted to business value in the near future. So if there is something that is on our roadmap, in our vision, but we have now a customer or a prospective customer that says, yes, I need it, then it will happen quite soon. Definitely today in the age of AI, where we're building things much, much faster than before.
You mentioned sales. How hard it is to teach you salespeople the technology and trust them with your baby? Because you as a founder, you're the best to sell the product you have. So how do you let go? What is your process to kind of trust them on the ideas that they will do it correctly and pitch the product correctly?
Yeah, so my approach to this is it's mixed. I'll start with the end. If I trust somebody, I can delegate a lot. There's a lot of trust, there's a lot of delegation, and that is the mode that I prefer. It's a fire and forget, and then have some check-ins, and you also trust the other person to proactively update you. That is the desired situation, the flow mode. But to get to that, you need to undergo a process of letting go, of trusting. So usually at the beginning, and especially as a founder, there is more micromanagement or more tactical management, especially of high risk or high impact issues. And then once trust is established, there is a lot of leeway. And at the end of the day, especially in sales, outcomes speak for themselves. If this person is able to create relationships and close deals, I will not disturb him or her.
Sounds good. How about work-life balance? Do you believe in work-life balance? And if it does, how do you maintain it?
It's critical, and I found throughout the years in almost all my roles in the military, in the private sector, these were all very intensive roles. It's easier in a way not to maintain the balance or to be more immersed and involved in work because there are strong currents pulling you that way. And there's always something more to do. Everything is urgent, especially in the military. It's harder to spend more time on the life rather than on the work. Because here you need to make some deliberate, conscious choices. At least for me, that's what I found throughout the years. As a founder, as a CEO, work-life balance is always a challenge, but you must maintain it. And even when you're not at work, you're not always present. Right? When you're with the family, when you're outside, sometimes you're present in body, but not in mind. And I realized that when my wife sometimes shouts at me, and I have to ask her, why are you shouting? Because this is the fourth time that I'm calling you, but I'm in my own world.
Yeah, I can understand this part. So what helped you, like you, to be more present? Is it meditation, workouts, friends, family?
So it's spending time with the kids, with the family, and staying active. Sports is a constant element in my life. I also like to do extreme sports, so things that really get your
Like which one?
mountain cycling, road cycling, martial arts.
Nice.
In the past, I did some skydiving, which I long to go to, but it's a bit more complicated today to go back to that. Music, so listening. I also play music and building. So I'm also an amateur carpenter.
Oh,
So to do something with the hands aside of the keyboard, that I find that also very therapeutic.
nice. Last question for today, or maybe even not last. Let's see. If you can go back 2 years ago before you started, what is the advice you will give to yourself based on what you know right now?
Wow. I would say that, I've been a firm believer in trusting your gut, listening to your gut. One of my past hobbies, we talked about hobbies, one of them was cognitive psychology and neuroscience. Something that I learned myself. I've always been kind of autodidactic in my nature. And one of the things that I learned closely is how we make decisions. At least half of that, I think, of the mental makeup of decision can be attributed to our limbic system or to our emotional system. And we are, our mind and body are connected. And that is why we often feel it feel things in our gut. It's really our emotions that are sending signs to us and helping us make decision, in addition to whatever happens in our prefrontal lobes. And when I started this entrepreneurial journey, my gut was speaking to me a whole lot and speaking out loud. Sometimes when you need to make a big jump, like starting a company, you need to tell your gut, look, I know you're saying that this is a big thing, a challenge. I hear you, but I'm gonna go for it anyways. So there are some risks in life that you just need to do it. And, I'll quote one of my favorite bands, one of my favorite bass players, which is Flea from the Red Hot Chili Peppers. And one line, he usually doesn't sing. Sometimes he does backup vocals. One of the lines that he sings is, "It's better to regret something you did than something you didn't do." So
100%. Then I guess we're gonna have another question, because you told me about psychology and messing with the mind. If we're gonna watch this podcast in 2 years, what would you recommend to yourself in 2 years forward to do right now?
wow, that's a tough one. I think it would be, trust yourself, continue to take calculated risks, and charge forward. Don't be afraid. Continue to build the team and foster the culture that we currently have. Run with the vision.
Makes sense. Makes sense. Thank you very much. A lot of good information. I hope people going to listen to this going to learn a lot about you and the company and some of the ideas of how to attract people and success. So thank you very much for joining.
Thank you for having me, Evgeniy.